Okay, am I the only one who thought she just ate her partner there? Of course, this new season had to open with a little food prawn, which you kind of have to expect. What some might not have expected was a narrator for a series in this franchise. Yeah, they decided to give this season in particular a narrator for whatever reason. I mean, she might play a bigger part later if her ability to break the fourth wall is any sign, but for now, she's not really adding or taking away from the show. I mean, she's certainly no Tom Kenny, that's for sure.
Oh, for crying out loud, would you three shut up for once?
We then cut over to... No, sorry, I think I put Inazuma 11 on by mistake. Seriously, while the animation for this first episode, done by Akira Inagami, is naturally really good because that's what a first episode of any anime should be, some of this animation made me think this was supposed to be a soccer anime. But no, as soon as we saw our main heroine Yui inhaling her musubi, Seriously Girl 2, it became clear what we were watching, especially when she started talking about fairies. Meanwhile, in our Magic Kingdom of the season, we were introduced to a soldier named Rosemary, and oh geez, this guy's design. Yeah, sure thing, King Candy. Also, I look forward to you turning into an Eldritch Abomination by the end of this. Not that you already aren't one. But yeah, while the mascots of the season were called the Energy Fairies, the actual MacGuffin Fairies were called the Recipes. Better get used to that name. Well, at least the music in the scene was really good. Again, thank you for coming back, Terada. And speaking of tunes, we then got the opening, and yeah, there's a reason I didn't make a separate video for it like I did with the Tropical Rouge opening last year. I mean, it's not anything necessarily bad,
but it's not doing so well.
I mean, okay, I do like some subtle elements here, like this little bit of the recipe board showing each of our main heroines leading a food tour, seemingly to their established preferences as shown by the food at the bottom, with Yui more into Japanese food like soba and karaage, Kokone more into westernized foods like omelet rice and hamburger steak, and Ron going for the mapo tofu and ramen because Chinese. Unfortunately though, that's arguably the most personality we got out of our characters in this opening, as unlike with say the Tropical Rouge opening, for as chaotic as it was, we still got some quick glimpses of each of our main heroines, giving us a really good idea of their personalities within just a few frames. Compare that with these shots where Yui seems to like food, okay, Kokone is fashionable, okay, Ron, we do see her being a bit of a food Instagrammer, so that's something, but yeah, that's about it. Not to mention, the interesting format of stuff being shown to us through the recipe board was only for the food tour bit, and everything else was just against some really plain backgrounds. And yeah, I think that's my biggest issue here. This OP just feels really plain. I mean, I'm not saying they have to be hyper-energized like with Tropical Rouge, but there should be at least something to make this stand out against the myriad of anime openings, not even within just this franchise. Like, they even did the cliche of showing the side characters all crammed together in some non-moving group shots with some in shadows to keep them mysterious. The antagonist in particular got the short end here, as not only was this their only appearance in the whole opening, but we didn't even get to see their monsters of the week. So when the action scene was supposed to play out, the Precure seemed to be fighting something off-screen or just firing their attacks into the air for all we know. Thus, while there was some nice animation here with them flying with the Mystery Kid and pulling superhero landings, we don't know what they're landing against. Now, all that said, stuff like the Mystery Kid, who might or might not be someone we already know, and this interesting little mechanic that we'll bring up more later in the review, do build some intrigue at least. And this shot of all of the characters eating together is surprisingly wholesome, and it does kind of make me want to see them build these sort of familial bonds over the course of the show. So while definitely on the lower tier of Precure openings for me, it's at least inoffensive, at least in its blandness. Also, yeah, the Pre-Hawk is still around because I've been told it sold surprisingly well last year. On her way home, Yui noticed something that seemed unusual to her, but might be normal for others. I don't want to have to keep making these jokes, but they make me do them anyway. As a result, though, Rosemary, who I guess forgot to eat breakfast, fainted from exhaustion. One of the energy fairies, Komi, decided to look for food for him, while the other two, I guess, decided to wait their turn. Granted, at least they weren't contemplating shoplifting. This resulted in a mother accidentally letting go of her baby stroller, which prompted a good character establishing moment. Seriously, I really liked how Yui, with no hesitation, immediately tried to rescue the baby. Sure, it was a little weird that she just came out of nowhere, but still, whatever. And she even followed it up by helping a girl up who I'm sure won't be significant later. Same with this girl.
Oh.
Anyway, Yui later just kind of found Komi. She did seem to be actively looking for the Fennekin knockoff. She just kind of ran into her because plot. Anyway, after eating her fill, Komi remembered what she was trying to do in the first place and led Yui to her half-dead master. Of course, seeing this, the little girl called for help and what the hell? Okay, either that guy really needs to eat more, or Yui really doesn't need to become a precure at this point. So yeah, Yui lifted the full-grown man to her family's diner where they treated him to a meal in the house, but in his own good character establishing moment, Rosemary insisted that he pay for his meal by washing dishes. Very admirable, even if he was acting a tad bit over the top.
美しさの秘訣気になるわよねやっぱり
Okay, so I have a couple of friends in the LGBTQ community, and they're hoping that this character could provide some decent representation, though they're not getting their hopes up because they know the toy tends to make these characters flamboyant to the point of beyond stereotyping, but hey, let's give them a chance.
それはひみつ
Done.
Alright, I actually won't be too mean to this character, as this episode, and the next, does seem to hint that there's a little more to him, but I just hope being effeminate won't be his defining characteristic. Anyway, he then explained the mechanics of the recipes.
小さい頃は見えることもあるんだけど普通は大人になると見えなくなって
Oh god, I hope a creepy pink bunny doesn't try to force her to become a new member of his train sentai. We then cut over to the lair of the Bundle Gang, where we were introduced to the first two generals of the season, Gentle and Secretor. And while we would kind of learn more about Arsene Jr. later, Secretor's gimmick seemed to be that she would make a cynical remark after every other sentence.
一層励んでください。っていうか、まだまだ働き方がぬるいって。
You know, lady, you might make a good reviewer on this site. Back at the Nogomi Diner, we were introduced to Takumi, whose mom also worked there as a waitress, and thus, like any son, he tried to mooch some food off of them. He ended up eating some omelet rice with childhood friend Yui, and oh god, can you make a ship any easier to see? Anyway, this ended up summoning an omelet fairy. No, I'm not going to use the R word anymore. However, Gentle then arrived and introduced the monster summoning mechanic of the season, where the Bundle Gang used bento boxes to seal the fairies in, resulting in all corresponding food in the area to just taste bad. So yeah, if you thought taking away people's motivation wasn't all that threatening, well, here you go. Still, this was enough to get Rosemary's attention, who tried to stop her. Using her little bento box of doom, she summoned the monster of the week, the Ubazo, that used a frying pan as a catalyst. Rosemary countered this by pulling a very tokusatsu move and transported them to that one place.
This is that rock quarry in Ibaragi that they used to film those tokusatsu shows. Yeah. This is where they filmed Kamen Rider Zeo, you know?
Actually, it was a field to prevent her from escaping, as well as keep any outsiders from getting involved, with the exception of one.
ゆいあんたどうやってここに
わかんない。
はい
The answer is don't think about it.
That clip is gonna keep me company all season, isn't it? Of course, being the main heroine, she wanted to save the little fairy, much to Rosemary's objections, and while she was already superhuman, she did eventually need some help. And when Spider-Man wasn't enough, it was time for some new toys, one of which included a digital watch, which, going back pictures, seems to include a virtual pet function for the energy fairies, very similar to a Digivice from the Digimon franchise, most notably the Vile bracelets from Digimon Ghost Game. Which is why I'm going to be wearing this DR Digivice for this season. I mean, yeah, it would probably make a little bit more sense to have the Vital bracelet, but yeah, I ain't paying for an overpriced Fitbit. But yeah, just like Digimon, there seems to be an evolution mechanic which is going to work its way into this show and give these fairies who can only talk in Pokemon right now human forms. Hopefully, this will lead to fleshing them out, not unlike the healing animals, and not just give us another set of pink seals. Anyway, we then got a transformation sequence, which, aside from the eating of the fox sequence, was cute. I especially like this little bit of the mascot helping with the transformation. Though, as I said in the website analysis video, I do wish this costume more prominently featured this ski design in to give Yui a bit more of a unique look. Some of my commenters also pointed out that she seemed to be wearing tabi, but nope, just plain old impractical high heels apparently. Of course, she and Rosemary were surprised at this.
プリキュアの力
Okay, dude, you're kind of pushing it now. The resulting fight was a very good first episode fight, if a little too blatant with the usual homages. And we also got to see Yui's special attack, the 500 kilocalorie punch, which from what I can tell is about the amount of calories you get from a Big Mac. She's punching with the amount of energy you get from a single fast food burger. Not exactly as epic as naming your attacks after progressively larger states in the US now, is it? And her finisher was okay, certainly not a tri-beam.
If you do that again, I will be so freaking nettled!
I mean, I won't even try to compare it to the Sakuga Fesses that were last season's finishers, and just say, it's fine. And with that, the episode ended with the Omelette Fairy retreating into Yui's watch, and yet another bit of her cringing at Rosemary's flamboyancy. So, yeah, that joke is dead. This was an okayish first episode. Again, like the opening, nothing bad at all in this one, but also nothing that really makes it stand out. This isn't necessarily a bad thing at all, as for the most part, they at least seem to check off all of the most important components of a first episode in this franchise. They established our lead as a heroine outside of the costume, gave some basic world building, and had some good episode 1 animation. So far, I don't feel like we've seen a major hook for this series, but I do honestly believe that some great stuff is on the way. I think I ended up describing a lot of this episode's aspects as just fine or okay, which is good, as it means it's handling itself competently enough. And of course, there were still some notable highlights like Yui's stroller rescue, some legit really good animation, and some interesting world building like Rosemary's Ibaraki barrier. On that note, while a lot of things are still in the dark, there is a lot of potential for some great world building here, like the evolution of the fairies, and the roles Rosemary and Takumi might play, as the latter did seem to be familiar with the former. Of course, that is just speaking in potential, as right now, everything is just okay. I mean, Yui is certainly an amiable lead, but she also doesn't have much of a backstory just yet, unless constant grandma quotes are interesting to you. However, I do still see this mostly as the appetizer before we get to the main dish, which hopefully within at least 3 episodes, we can get something really tasty. If you haven't seen it yet, I actually managed to get part 1 of this doujinshi review out, as well as explain why there's a slight format change to these reviews. Yeah, if you haven't heard about the latest bit of copyright nonsense on this stupid site, essentially every anti-tuber is now on the chopping block as Japanese companies are just going straight for the lawsuits. We are trying to get around it, though from what I've heard, even screenshots in the thumbnail are targetable, as the companies are using otherwise minor slap suits to take down channels no questions asked. So I just figured, hell of it, we'll just go 50-50 with the screenshots and clips, which might lead to a bit more of a coherent product, as screenshots every so often have their benefits over straight clips, plus they are easier to edit, though let me know what y'all think. So far, it doesn't seem like any other Japanese companies have pulled what Show Pro did, thus while we are erring on the side of safety, as well as delaying the Tropical Rouge review, it will come out if nothing else major develops, and hey, at least y'all get the second half of that doujinshi review out sooner. In any case, this new year and new season have only just started, so we're just gonna keep trucking onwards and upwards. So hopefully you'll stick with us, and until next time though, farewell for now my friends, and ooh, the rice is ready.